Welcome to the show. I'm Jen. My guest today is Nancy Hormann, the Executive Director of Downtown Mesa Association. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
I love Mesa. I'm born and raised here, and Mesa's always been this part of the valley that I wasn't as familiar with. And so as I'm getting to know you and the growth of the valley, Mesa is just on fire.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I took the job as a consultant to help them out and to hire somebody, and I fell in love with Mesa and what's going on there now. It's just phenomenal. It's exploding.
What comes to mind for me is a sleeping giant, because we are this big metropolitan city, and Mesa has so much going on, and they've just had some other announcements of what's coming there through ASU and just the growth in general. So, and I know they're lucky to have you, which leads to the first question I want to ask is your career and your journey and, a fellow PR person along the way. So tell us a little bit about, how you got to where you are today.
Well, I started out a long time ago, and I was going to school, and I got married, and I got pregnant, and I had my first child while I was still in college. And so I continued my college education while bringing up 3 kids. And after staying at home with kids for 8 years and figuring out I needed some adult conversation, I decided that I wanted to go back to work. Well, when you've not been in the workforce and you've been a mother for 8 years, people think your brain atrophies. Mm-hmm. So I could not get a job in anything. And before that, I was doing what's called interstitial programming, and most people don't know what that is. And it was for a channel called On TV, which people don't remember anymore. But it was like the making of the movie in between the programs.
Oh, okay.
And then I didn't work for a long time. So what I did was I started figuring out what could I do that's hot right now. And what was happening was the chocolate industry was on fire at that time. So my best friend and I went and visited a chocolate festival up in San Francisco and said, oh, we could do this. And we wound up putting on the first chocolate festival that we did in the convention center in downtown LA. And we made front page top story because everybody loves chocolate.
Well, yeah.
And for the next 6 years or so, we did chocolate festivals all over the United States, several in California. But then we hooked up with Princess Cruises, and we did chocolate cruises for them and traveled all over the world taking all the chocolatiers on the cruises with us and doing demos, and every night was a turn down service. So we brought like 2 tons of chocolate on the ship every time we went.
Wow.
It was so much fun. And so that's how I got back into the working world. And from that, I was recruited to go to the city of Solvang, California. And most people don't know what Solvang is, but it's a Danish village in the central coast of California. And I created their Convention and Visitors Bureau. And I worked there for a while. And what I noticed in there is that I was marketing things that I had no control over. So what I had was a town that needed some management, needed to enhance itself so we could market it. And I said, this isn't where I want to be. I want to be in the place where we can make the place better. So I was hired to create the first business improvement district in downtown Sacramento. And so in California, business improvement districts are when property owners get together and tax themselves to do enhanced services in their downtown, above and beyond what a city does. So I went and created the first business improvement district in California in Sacramento. Wow. And so our budget went from $400,000 to $2.8 million. And we were able to enhance things. We put in a permanent ice rink. We did marketing for downtown. We put a clean and safe program there. And so with the success of that, I went and did 17 more districts in California.
That's unbelievable.
So I've done almost every major city there, and I just loved it. It's such a great way. You get such satisfaction out of it. And from there, I was a traveling spouse or trailing spouse for quite a while, and I was running downtown San Francisco, and my husband got transferred to Dallas. So I wound up moving to Dallas.
And bringing that expertise to that city.
And in there, before I took the job with downtown Dallas, I helped build a downtown from scratch in a city called Southlake, Texas, which had no downtown at all. It was a 40-year-old city with no downtown, and we built one from scratch.
Wow.
And it actually, we wanted to get a DeLorean for our opening thing because it looked like Back to the Future. I mean, it's just, so then I went and ran downtown Dallas, and then I ran downtown Raleigh, North Carolina, and then I came back to the West, where I could not go back to California because who could afford to go back to California? And my oldest daughter lived here in Arizona, and I spent the last 8 years of my career running downtown Tempe. And it was fun and delightful. And I retired 7 years ago. Funny thing, I'm back again.
And you're bringing all that expertise to Mesa, which is, you know, so exciting because it is that sleeping giant. And so it needs that expertise to really elevate it and, you know, create that thriving area within downtown Mesa, and you've done that. So it's interesting, you touched on some of the things I wanted to ask you, but, you know, how do you feel you can come in and make changes? And you know, because sometimes you're up against, you know, people that don't want to make, not just that don't want to make the change, but, you know, lose the intimacy maybe of what their town or their city is.
Right,
you know?
and that's very important, you know, is that they don't want to lose that. But I've come to the conclusion over the years, it's not that you can't please everybody. You can't please anybody, so don't even try. Just do what needs to get done. And the people of Mesa are very receptive. I mean, I always talked about Mesa as the redheaded stepchild of Arizona because nobody ever paid any attention to them. And I think that too bad for people who didn't pay attention because you could have gotten in when it was much less of an investment to go there. Now, it is a sleeping giant, but it's also so authentic. Very different from all the other cities, you know, here where everybody seems to go to get the retailers that are like chains or chainlets. And a chainlet is something that is local to Arizona. So, you know, it's not all over, but like you would only find them in Arizona. Well, you know, what we want to do in Mesa is we don't want to be like every other downtown. We want to be the authentic Mesa that it is. And it's very innovative and really creative, but it's also authentic. And I almost want to call it a modern Mayberry. You feel so relaxed there. Everything is so friendly. And these people want to let people know they're there. And everyone has been incredibly cooperative. So I think it's not only bringing new ideas, but getting people to go along with those ideas and getting their ideas too. Because it's not about what I think is best. It's about what's best for everybody.
Yeah, I love that perspective. I'm excited to see the continuation of, you know, Mesa's evolution. So before we wrap up, though, I really need to ask you about the chocolate, too.
Okay.
What's your favorite chocolate?
I'm very odd for a chocolate person because I really like milk chocolate. And so, but there is a huge difference, and I'm sorry, US, but there's a huge difference between European chocolate and domestic chocolate. And it's the amount of cocoa butter that's used in it. And when you have a piece of European chocolate, it's much smoother and not as gritty as what it is here. So the best baking or chocolate in the world is Callebaut. It's a French chocolate. Or using Henry's, which is really the, Henry's is the European version of Nestle's. That's the original. They're the people who made the first chocolate bar.
Oh, wow.
And so I will always go to a European chocolate before I will go. And I'm not a candy person.
I need to seek that out because I don't know where to get that.
I'm not a candy person. I'm a chocolate person. There's a big difference. Now, I love candy.
Well, you've been exposed to so many different chocolates.
I can't go through a day without eating chocolate. After all these years, I have to have chocolate every day.
Well, I don't know the perspective on the show, but you're so tiny that I wish I could eat that much chocolate and stay that
you don't
tiny.
need a lot.
So
2 squares
yeah.
of chocolate a day is
Yes,
all I need.
yes.
Just
No,
getting
that's-
in there. But always go, Lindt chocolate is a wonderful chocolate, but always look for that,
The European.
the European.
We're not calling out any
Yeah.
U.S. domestic chocolates, but
Right. Well,
caliber.
Godiva is a U.S. domestic chocolate. People think it's European, but it's made by Campbell's Soup.
Oh. All right.
So,
well,
so
I see a second show coming with Nancy. More on Mesa and more on chocolate for sure.
I mean, I will live my life around chocolate. It's the most wonderful thing. And it does have a chemical in it that is euphoric. And
That's
it
what I
makes
try
you
to
fall
tell
in love.
myself when I'm indulging in
That's
chocolate.
why people eat chocolate when they're depressed. There is a chemical in there called phenethylamine, and it enhances you
Enhances
and
your
makes you
feeling.
feel good.
All right.
That's why people eat chocolate.
Well, I don't know if I do have some chocolate in
you
here.
do.
I think we might have to dig into some chocolate. So thank you for being here,
Oh, my
sharing what's
pleasure.
going on in Mesa, and please come back and let's talk about more that's happening there and we can share that story.
Would love to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the show. We'll see you next time on Now with Jen.